what it is. All right, guys, it's 2:00. I don't know what that means, but I do know what that
Showtime.
means. That's right. That's what that means. In fact, we're gonna do this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gaming Workshop. It's here. It's time. It's now. Episode 15. Can you believe it? If I wasn't so tired, I would do the math on that. 3 months, 2 months, 3 months, a little over 3 months, 3.5 months. But this is fantastic. I appreciate all the support from you guys. The show would be absolutely nothing without all of you. I mean, that's a fact. Today we're going to have the Doug modding team on it with us today. In fact, they're already here, just so you know. But for those who don't know, this show is about the DayZ Underground, which is a server for the game DayZ. It's an open world sandbox horror game. This is an organic role play server where we all come together and tell stories and do our thing and interact with each other in one way or another, even if it's with a bullet. It's such a weird argument, isn't it? I want to interact. Well, I did interact with you. I put a hole in you. That's interaction, whether you like it or not. It technically is an interaction. I'm just saying, you know. Oh my goodness, guys. We're going to go ahead and get into this today. Yes, today with us, we do have the modding team, the entire modding team. We have Ammo, we have Diesel, and we have Dr. Desync. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hello.
There you
Diesel
go.
is shy.
Diesel is shot. I didn't mean to shoot Diesel. We'll get him patched up and back in here as soon as he can.
Hello.
What?
Oh, hey, there he is.
I said hello.
Did you? Who didn't we have?
He didn't.
No.
We didn't hear him.
Oh,
I went third. I was last.
No. It's probably all that static.
It could be my shit mic. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an inside joke from the pre-show. You should have seen it. Anyway. All right, guys, we're going to get into this a little bit today. Like I said, this is the modding team. These guys are responsible for helping make Doug the unique experience that it is from a technical standpoint. I mean, it's true that we are all role players and that we all bring our own selves into this melting pot of fun. But these guys are the ones behind the scenes who are doing things like texturing all our new goodies and dealing with the CLE, trying to make sure that our server is not only hardcore but fair. And you know, these guys deal with all that kind of stuff. And while we have admins, you know, who take away their playtime, you know, to just try to administer the server and trying to make sure that we're all following the rules and playing nicely, these guys again just make the server, you know, look the way it does. They add all these new things. In fact, I didn't even know that that some things were modded in. And so it's a really interesting topic. We've had a lot of people constantly asking questions in Discord and in various chats and all of that. The questions that really pertain to these guys. So I'd like to welcome you all again. And I think that what we'll start with is, you know, believe it or not, there are people that actually don't know anything about you guys. So, you know, why don't we start with that a little bit? Like, I would say, because it's kind of odd when you have like, you know, a group of people that you're interviewing. And so rather than having to call on everybody, every time I ask a question, I kind of like people to just answer when they feel like they have one. And then, you know, we'll go from there. So guys, but I will actually with this one, I will start with specifics just to keep it organized. So I guess I'll start with Ammo. We'll go alphabetical. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man, and like what you do and that sort of thing.
I'm a 44-year-old Dutch guy, so from the Netherlands, software developer. I joined DayZ Underground in the early 2016, I think. Became an admin in 2017, and then modding came along, and I started modding GTA 3 back in the day, and then World of Warcraft, and so now DayZ. So yeah, and I mostly run all the scripting, coding side of things. Also wrote some stuff that for the server itself. While I was still admin, still do that. Yeah. So I'm basically responsible for hooking all the beautiful assets that other people make up to the scripts that make them work.
Nice, nice. And Diesel, tell us a little bit about yourself, man, and what you do.
You can, Diesel.
What?
You're up, buddy.
I'm up. I know. I'm talking.
Oh, well, now I'm hearing
Oh, you are?
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So also, I think I joined Doug a few months after MO. Probably, I think it was like August or so, August or September 2016. Became an admin on the exact same day. And what's it been now? A year or two? 2 years, I guess, that we haven't. I left the admin team. But when we started self-hosting, I took over that. I work in IT. I deal with servers, SQL servers, SharePoint, all this other fun stuff. So it came quite natural to me to administer the server and get it set up that way. And just sort of fell into, oddly enough, it was one of the things I did not want to do was look after the CLE, just because I had no real experience in game design, and I thought, balancing all these numbers and figures and all that, it's just going to be like, not going to be my alley. But somebody had to do it, so I stepped up, and it worked out, I guess. I mean, here we are, how many years later, and we did the big revamp. I remember back when we decided to go hardcore. We were one of the first, not the first, but one of the first servers to do hardcore, as in reduced loot, all these nice scripts that Ammo puts in that sort of, made things a little more fair, or took things out that were just, I don't know, didn't really make sense from BI. And we can talk about some of those later, but yeah, we just made the server more for an experienced player, and it worked out. We haven't really changed the CLE all that much, to be honest, from that very first day. So that's me.
Neat. And Dr. Desync, man, who are you, and what are you all about?
I'm 21, about to be 22 here, like in next week or so.
Now,
mainly what I
baby
do
of
is
the
I
team.
half the age of Ammo technically now.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way. I'm making it this far.
Well, let's hope 22 more years at least. What I do is I take
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I take care of some of the social media aspect, and mainly any form of advertising you may see from Doug, the pretty pictures, sometimes a video or two. But also I help break down anything Ammo builds and then laugh in his face afterwards.
Sounds like a kind of quality control,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, one of the things that I've noticed with you guys and hearing about all of this is that you all come from some sort of related background in one way or another. And I think that's kind of important for everybody to know, that it's not like, we just grab some guys off the street who, said that they were good at modding or whatever, just threw them at it, that you guys actually have some real life experience and whatnot. And I think it's important for people to know that, because people who haven't modded anything before may not realize just how technical a lot of this stuff is. I myself, I've very, very, very lightly modded. I've made this joke before. It was like my talking about these experiences is like me bragging about my painting skills to Picasso. It's not anything that I've done that's mattered, but I've played around with it. I've what was it, Vampire Redemption game back in the 90s that was like supposed to be a role-playing game where you could be like run it like an actual game, but you had to mod things and build worlds and this sort of thing. And I've done a little bit of texturing, I've done a little bit of building and this sort of thing, but it's always been way above my pay grade. And I think it's important that people know that it helps when you have some skills. You can learn to do a lot of things. I don't know about DayZ though, and how that process works, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited to talk with you guys about and find out how, like, say maybe compare to like Grand Theft Auto or other things that you guys mod out there. How does it stack up working with BI and DayZ's code?
Well, First off, there's a lot more to the modding team than just us three.
Yes,
we
yes,
work
yes,
with
yes.
excellent texture artists, Merlin Pure Passion, Quartzy Puffy Star, Creep, Windstride. We work with Valdark. He made some awesome items for Doug as well, and yeah, we're just the ones bringing him to life. So there's
Well,
a ton more people behind the scenes doing stuff for us, even as we speak.
thank you very much for mentioning that because I don't even know. I forget the guy's name now, even. But in Discord, last couple of weeks, somebody was brought up as being, somebody who's done a lot of work. I had
Yeah,
no
that's
clue.
Valdark, that
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
guy. Or
That's it. But it's pretty amazing, really. I mean, the amount of because the love that goes into this server shows, in the way that we all contribute to it. But I don't know. It the way we volunteer, people volunteer and just really put a lot of themselves into it this way blows my mind, man. It really speaks volumes about this community and
thousands of
the way we
hours,
live.
thousands literally.
I mean, and all I do is like I just like make content. I feel like anybody could do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of this behind the scenes work is just really impressive to me. But yeah, so I mean, though, how is it though modding all that for Daisy?
It's utter shit.
Yeah, there you go. That's what we were looking for.
No, the problem is there. When we started out, there was no documentation. There still is very sparse documentation. Mainly, the modest Discord is the documentation. So knowledge of other people and stuff you figure out yourself. For instance, last night I spent, I think, 6 hours with Dr. Desync just trying to get a single item to do something I wanted.
Wow,
And
that's a lot of time.
because there's no there's no examples, and that's for a simple thing. I wanted an item to flip. Yay.
The simplest
So-
items usually take, if not probably days. I remember the cigarettes were probably one of the most annoying things we ever had to deal with over time.
Really? What is-
Getting the lighting right? Like there's a little
Mm.
light at the end that makes it glow, and the amount of hours that Ammo spent making sure that it was exactly at the tip of the cigarette and that it had the right radius to the light and that it looked right in game and that the position in your mouth, it was insane the number of hours that went into the cigarettes. And it's something that everyone looks at and goes, oh yeah, whatever, it's a cigarette, right? Like
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
because of my inexperience with actually modeling. So the cigarette I did myself, and I'll never do it again.
People probably don't even know that when you drag from a cigarette, you can actually hear the person actually making a sound as well, both the inhale and exhale.
See, that's interesting. And I'll tell you right now, because I mean, most people, it's true. Thank you for that follow. Most people, it's true that they'll just take it for granted. Oh, I'm just smoking a cigarette. Next time you smoke a cigarette in game or you see somebody smoking a cigarette in game, why don't you take the extra minute to really look at it? Because I haven't, and I'm looking forward to doing that now. I mean, I have oh yeah, he's smoking it, looks real and everything else, but I really didn't take the time to appreciate that sort of thing because again, it's something that, we take for granted when it works right. But if it wasn't working right, it would be so noticeable and it would be the difference between night and day. So, I mean, it's weird in this kind of instance. I mean, with the kind of work that you guys do, it's hard to, I guess, I don't know, prioritize the appreciation that we give for the things that work because people are going to going to notice the things that don't work more noticeably. And I find that to be really key with you guys in your quality control. And I've watched a lot of your conversations, in the modding channels and all of that. And, sometimes it's easy to get frustrated because we see something and we're like, gosh, I'd really like to see this in game, or I'd really like, we've seen this someplace else. Why can't we bring it into ours, But it may just not reach that standard, that you guys are pushing for. That really helps Doug stand out. I mean, the cigarette thing was an excellent example. I'm glad you guys brought that up because people don't realize that, like the amount of effort that goes into this one thing. You're talking about trying to make sure just that the light at the tip of the cigarette is just right. I mean, it's, that's pretty awesome.
And that's true. A lot of people will say, oh, we want, there's this mod on the on the workshop, and there's this mod and this mod and this mod. And a lot of times for various reasons. Sometimes we look at them and go, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but it just doesn't work right, or it's it's a hack, or the quality just isn't there. And the quality is important. It's important to us, certainly. But when you say like players will pick up on stuff that doesn't work right, like let's take the Scout, the first version of the Scout. Now it was from before BI put it in. It was from Weapon Redo, which was like I think one of the first probably 50 mods on the server on the workshop. And it was a little clunky, right? And that was like version 2 of it, that Not a Banana had done. And everyone was like, oh, and they're always so mad, like, oh, I chambered the thing and the scope went to the end of the rifle. Like, okay, but that's part of the reason why things like the Scout weren't in on Doug early on. But you get pushed, and after a number of years, people are like, fuck it, we'll just put it in, and players will deal with it. And then, like, within an hour, someone's like, oh my god, like my what is wrong with this stupid gun? Like, fix the friggin' thing. And it's like, seriously? Like, you begged for it, and now you got it, and now you're not happy about it. So, but it's not ours. So it is what it is, right? Because we can't control that. And that's part of why, how many times has someone put in a modding suggestion for change notes to do this? Guess what, guys? Notes don't belong to Doug. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, we can't do that. Don't ask, please don't ask for more changes to BI models. I want this to have this attachment, but it doesn't have that attachment now. Guess what? It's never going to have that attachment because it doesn't accept attachments. So it's little things that people have to understand, right?
Well, some things are totally like hard coded into the game. I mean, that's the thing. There are things you can change, things you can't.
Yeah, and Emo can talk more about that, but some things are just not available to modding. Mm-hmm. They're core components of the game, and BI just doesn't allow changes to them. But things like models themselves, like, I want to be able to stick a patch on the back of my jacket, and it's like, okay, well, I've seen it in a mod. Yeah, okay, but those are custom models. You can't take your field jacket or your Gorka jacket and stick a backpack on it, or stick a patch on it, because it doesn't exist. There is no attachment slot for that. So we'd have to build a whole new version of that item that you want, and then the patches, and then write all the code.
Well, now let me ask you this. In that, sorry to interrupt. In that exact example, I mean, it's not like you can just copy and paste like the textures or whatever is there, and then just add to it, right? I mean, do you have to start all the way over from scratch, or I mean, when
you're talking about an attachment,
mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I see what you mean.
Right,
like adding something to it. Yeah.
That's that's baked into the model.
Right.
You can change the texture.
Right.
But when you're talking about adding an attachment, like Windstride's a perfect example. So he's got a mod out. He's got tons of items in it. But one of the things he was like one of the first people, I think, to have a backpack that you could put stuff like attached to it. So you could put a water bottle in the side of it, and you could attach a cooking pot to it. And now he's got it up to, like, I don't know what it is. There's like 15 different items or something you could put on a backpack. And that's great and all, I guess, if you like that sort of thing. But that's a custom model. And someone was like, well, just make it so the Tulun backpack will take a water bottle on it. You can't do that. The Tulun backpack does not have attachment slots other than the radio and the light, right? The chem light. That's what BI has given us. And that's what you got. And it's not as simple as going, well, reuse that slot and let me put a cooking pot on it, because you can't control the cooking pot model either. So sometimes when it attaches to things, it might stick out vertically and you want it horizontal, or, right? Yeah, exactly.
A great example would be the
I've seen it.
First aid kit on the belts. We had to do a new texture for it because it's actually flipped around. We couldn't properly have it sit right.
Yeah, and we just lucked out with that. Like we someone suggested, well, put handcuffs in the sheath slot, right? So that they're on the back of your belt, like in the small of your back.
Cool. I mean, it would be neat.
But they don't sit hanging down. They sit like they're floating out.
Right? Sticking out of your ass.
they're sticking out of your ass like a like a disc sticking out of your
Yeah.
back, and it's like, well, it
I have a
just doesn't
picture for that.
work.
No.
Yeah, I think we
And
actually have a
guys-
picture of that. Yeah,
you
so
guys would
because
have
we
to
did try
completely
that. Someone
General
suggested it.
general
We're like,
chat.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of things like that. It's just not as it's not as simple as you might think.
Well, then I would guess, just to grab a random question, which I've done, Will, he says, for instance, that, would it ever be possible to make armbands on both arms now so they don't look like floaters? And I would probably guess the answer to that would probably be no, then, right? Because it's an attachment slot basically on your character that the armbands fit to,
I
right?
think somebody did double armbands.
Yeah, you can do
Yes.
double armbands, but
Okay.
it requires a new model. But double armbands, well, I don't see the use for double armbands. I do hate the way that they look like floaties. I'm not
Yeah.
a child anymore. I
Yeah,
can
right.
swim. But yeah,
That's good. Yeah.
it requires a new model, actually.
See, that's interesting.
Because-
See, 'cause man,
Because we can't edit the BI models. So
there are so
Yeah.
many different, there's so many nuances, to what can and can't be done. I mean, it's kind of understandable. People ask a lot of questions, but I mean, at some point it's just kind of be like,
well, a lot of the questions that get asked, I do write down, and other people write down. We have an
Mhm.
extensive document. I think it's 10 pages now.
nice.
With all kinds of ideas and things that we might want, may not want, etc. We have several spreadsheets with data in them. For instance, all the food values, just to make sure that food is fair, because BI fucked up a lot of the food,
Mhm.
and some of the food was superfood, like the guts, for instance, and the fat and that bullshit. And yeah, and Diesel and me and Diesel maintain a sheet with all the custom items, and we're over 350, close to 400 unique duck items. And I don't think people see that from playing the game, because they only think about the unique models. But for instance, there's a shit ton of unique retextures, high quality retextures. Merlin Pure Passion did a ton of them just to make them look good. The training jackets, for instance, the training suit, tracksuits in the Berezino and the Svergrad style, etc. Those fit in perfectly in the game, but they're unique.
There you go.
They fit into the palette of the game.
And that's actually kind of funny. Diesel got on me not too long ago in Discord chat, because I was like, I made the comment that there didn't seem to be a lot of varieties of different clothing and whatnot. Totally my bad, honest with you, because I did not consider the sheer amount of things that you guys have put into the game just on your own. But I think it was like, my comment was just based on like the limited stuff that I've seen, because I don't travel around the map a lot, and I don't see everything. I see all of certain things, you know what I mean? And so it would be interesting to know, what all has been added, but I know that the list is extensive. So I know that it's going to take a lot of time, and you have to actually just sit down and, put the time in to do that. And I mean, who has the time? I mean, especially when you guys, just like the admin team, you guys want to play too, and you guys want to do all the normal stuff that the rest of us take for granted, because that's all we do is play around.
Yeah, just
have
less.
fun. I mean, right? So I mean, I completely understand why we don't, why it's gotten behind on that. But I mean, but it would be nice, just if nothing else, so that people can see, and really know the amount of work that you guys have put into this. And I mean, everybody, of course, all the, anybody who's participated in the modding, because it's pretty incredible. I mean, even the cigarette thing still blows me away.
I think Deasing is trying to share retexture examples.
That was a video we did back in 2019.
Yeah, but your links get eaten by something.
Crap.
I shows fine for me in the chat.
We pop them in
No,
Discord,
I'll pop and I'll do
and
that.
And I'll transfer them over. I don't know why. I really need to go through here and set this up. It's just that some people will come in and spam, their nonsense links and stuff. So I just have them turned
Fair.
off to make it easy. So
Yeah,
There was
but
one
we
thing
have.
you mentioned, and Ammo, you might cut my head off for this, but I did put in the doc anyway, which is one thing we're working on, which is going to take probably a very long time, is we want to do something similar to the DayZ wiki, which is we want to have something on the website which features every item, categories properly, and
Approximately every item, but yeah.
That'd be cool.
lots of it. But we're working on it. But that document is just a single line entries currently. It's a Google Doc with single line entries per feature or per thing, and it's
Mhm.
already 6 pages. So, and those need to be expanded to Alinea. So it's a fuck ton of work. So
Yeah, I can understand that, man. I mean, it's and again, I ask everybody to at least try to consider that. You know what I'm saying? That most of the things these guys do take hours upon hours to do. It's not
that
just
that
something to
hits
sit
on
down and
something
change a few
that
values. You know.
that hits upon something that Yari said, the Purple Manatee in chat.
Mhm.
How the Discord terms and reactions matter little when it comes to deciding what to work on to add to the mod. There's a couple of reasons for that. Coding wise, I do what I want, and that's you can't. If I have to work on something, it's harder than if I get a creative idea and just do it. A good example was me and Dr. Desync worked on the 5-year event. That's now 2 years and a couple of months ago. We did the trading cards, the collectible cards and the card pack, etc.
Nice.
That was an idea that we had, and it's all smoke and mirrors. Just FYI, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's actually tomato seeds, the packets retextured with paper, retextured to look like a card, and every pack already has the card inside that you're getting. So you're not getting a random pack. You already have the pack that you're getting. So there's no
Nice.
random factor to it. That was because we wanted to do a hunt. So the first to collect all the cards won some Doug merge, and the second prize and third prize. It actually took 24 hours for somebody to collect them all.
They had to scour
Wow.
the entire map.
The entire map, including Prison Island. Some only spawned on Prison Island, for instance, and that's how we dealt with that. But that was from concept to reality. That was 48 hours.
That's interesting. How many?
So-
Can you say how many cards there are? Individual cards, or did you? I can't remember.
It says on the
That's
on
kinda-
the collectible pack, or it says on the packets even. I don't know.
Does
Can't
it?
remember.
It's on the workshop.
might
not
Grab
have- says-
it really quick.
I might
Hold
not
on.
have
if
ever
you
read
inspect the
the-
packet,
I
then
might
it
have
says
never
how many
done
there
that.
are. 16 or something, maybe 15.
15 cards
hilarious.
in total. 14 represent the groups and factions, with the 15th as the Doug logo.
Nice. I was just wondering because some people collect these things. I don't know who.
But yeah,
some
there are
people-
people who go for they try to get every
Super
poncho,
power.
every shamog, every trading card, every faction flag and armband, and even every faction item.
I mean, it's pretty fun stuff to try to do. I mean, especially when some of it you have to, take by force. It kind of makes it interesting when you have a collection like that. I think anyway, it's just another thing, another way to keep the game fun, which is again something that I definitely appreciate because one of the things we talk about on this show a lot is how we interact with each other and the things you can do, and it's like once there are just certain things that you just do so many times that it just loses the thrill, and a lot of it like rating and all this stuff, it's just becomes clockwork after a while. So it's fun to have all these little things. There's another thing that people love about the cassette tapes is that it's super fun to have these different things that you can kind of do as kind of like a side game or something, trying to collect them all and whatnot. I like that stuff personally. But that is interesting though. I had no clue.
And sometimes it's
where they
simple
came
things.
from.
For instance, as Mondian on Twitter shared a video idea of having your radio on your backpack, looking down at it, and changing the channel and turning it on and off. And 5 hours later, it was in the Doug mod. Because,
That's
well,
awesome.
I thought I can do that, no problem. So yeah.
A lot of people
That's
don't
cool.
know that. Literally, free look at your left shoulder, and it'll give you the option to either change the frequency or turn it off. And when it's on, and now it's on the backpack slot, you'll see a little icon on your hotbar that says it's turned on and what frequency it's currently on. Same for the headset.
fantastic. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
that's some new additions we did. We also we used to run the earplugs mod, but now we have auto earplugs.
Mhm.
So if you get into a car, it mutes, but you can still use a toggle to mute and unmute, and it's now relative to your master volume instead of being a fixed percentage. Anyway, just small quality of life things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I do. I think this. I'm gonna see if I can do this real quick because I got to get used to doing these kinds of things. Let me see. I had it. There we go. Hold on. I had to change all this stuff here. Well, see how this goes. There we go. So you guys should be able to see the picture. I hope I'm not seeing it on my end just yet. But anyway, hopefully it worked. Oh wait, no, here we go. There we go. Now it's gonna work. Anyway, this would be the handcuff picture of the handcuffs sticking from the behind and whatnot. They don't even really hang right on the sides. It was just something I was noticing because I was like, man, that's interesting. That was an interesting point to be made, because there are a lot of different things that would be cool to be able to do. But yeah, like you guys were saying, you have to completely redo the whole thing, and it's just like, who wants to do that? You know what I mean? It's a lot of
Every
time.
once in a while, we get an idea. Like we have the one thing I've always wanted is, and other people have wanted as well, is the pistol holster. Why can't we put something like a sawed-off weapon to there? Well, we work with DDU, and now we have that as a belt option. It's just
Mhm.
really rare to go find, but you might see people like the Rangers, Darkest Midnight. They wear them because they love having that as part of their PID. Another thing was the machete sheath. One thing that came out recently was Dam's faction item, the Cannonball Knife,
Mhm.
which is about the length of a machete. So why not have a sheath to go with it? And now you can have stuff like, I believe the Fange knife can be in there, the normal machete, and the Cannonball Knife. We would add the Kukri, but it's too much of an angled blade, so it just clips completely through.
See, that makes sense. There was the knife. What is it? The Fang. I've seen that, and I've stuck it in a sheath, and it sticks out. It doesn't look terrible, but you know, it's still it'll fit
That's
in a sheath.
the
But
vanilla one. So if
yeah.
you can find a machete sheath, it should work.
Interesting. But yeah, that's a good that's an
Mhm.
example though. If I had a screenshot, I would show it of, you know, some of the ways things don't quite fit together. It's kind of things that you guys are talking about. But that's still really cool. I love that you guys try to do this. And I thought that was an interesting point to be made also, by the way, is that if you really want to see something in game, you're most likely going to see it if the mod team wants to see it. You know what I mean? Because then they're probably a little more motivated to make it happen. But even then, I mean, I don't know. This stuff just blows my mind, especially when we get into the weeds of the technical aspects of all of this, which is why it doesn't surprise me that you guys, you know, tend to have relevant backgrounds for a lot of the stuff that you're doing in game, which is something that, again, I appreciate. We always get questions all the time, and I know you guys touched on this a little bit about trying to bring in other mods. And one of the things that I know that I noticed is that there are different. Maybe you guys could talk a little bit about some of the terminology when it comes to what it means to be able to repack something versus being able to change, you know, like the coding of it or whatnot. There are a lot of different permissions that are involved, right? Because everything that you're coding is still. Now, how does this work actually? Because this is another relevant question to this. I'm throwing a lot out there right now. But if you're like when it comes to copyright and who owns things, you know, like if I'm a writer and I write something out, the moment that it's on the paper, it's mine legally. Is that the way it works with coding as well? And how does that play into working off of someone else's work, like creating something, you know, for DayZ?
Well, it's I can explain that.
Great.
Every author or texture artist or modeler or scripter or anybody that contributes something to the Doug mod, we always say, hey, this is for DayZ Underground, will be property of DayZ Underground, and we can do with it what we want, but it will be for DayZ Underground. Some people are more specific than others. Some people say, sure, but only in the DayZ Underground mod. That's fine. For instance, Quartz Puffy Star, that's the guy that made all the animal skin backpacks, all the textures for that, all 20-something. And he also made all the face paint textures.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hell of a job as well. And he specifically stated only for the Doug mod. So when we started sharing, for instance, code and models with DDU, which we might touch on later, I asked permission for everybody that contributed to the Doug mod on those specific things that I'm sharing for permission to share with DDU as well. So but that's more of a gentleman's agreement than, that's just legal. And there's also the DMCA system on Steam. I think I DMCA'd over 30 mods because they stole from Doug. And just took them down. And some people were like, well, angry, but yeah, fuck you. You're stealing. You're stealing
Yeah.
the hard work of. Well, I think we're close to 20 people that have worked on the Doug mod now. So, yeah, the main people are in the chat right now, are me, Diesel, and D-Zinc, and Merlin as well. But yeah,
Mhm.
Did we write about the DMCA at all?
Hmm?
How the DMCA system works on Steam?
Mm-mm.
oh
How-
shit.
yeah.
You know, at least
Yeah, because I have to share my my address, my name,
Mhm.
my address, all my details get shared with the guy I'm DMCAing. So I'm putting somebody else. I'm just I'm
Yeah.
I'm nuking somebody else's mod off Steam and potentially getting their Steam account banned, and they get all my private info. I'm a
Wow,
big
that's
boy.
interesting too.
Don't come hurting me.
not a
but-
great trade.
yeah.
No, not at all, actually.
So that sucks. But yeah, other than that, I'll keep DMCAing.
There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, now when you're saying that you're DMCAing, now is it because can people use like other servers? Can they legally, I mean, use the Doug mod as long as they
Yeah.
don't modify it?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. So you guys are talking about people that actually break open the mod and go through and take things out and.
Yeah, they just steal the content and or repack assets from ours into their own mod. It's well,
you go.
I hate to say it, but it's mainly Russians
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that are DMCA. Some French, some others, but yeah. And no,
That's
I'm not
fair.
backing guns, Wilco, because I'm Dutch. We don't own guns.
We had some of our textures. We make sure to have unique type of things on there. I know Pure Passion, he puts a ton of work in that type of stuff. And one guy decided to steal a bunch of his work, claim it as his own, and advertise it as if, hey, I will make these types of assets for you in your server. It only costs maybe $50 plus.
Yeah.
Even though you can literally put these side by side and you can see down to the numbers on the little QR code that says, hey, this is our stuff. But all he did was is put a little terrible little PNG of a piece of duct tape over it.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, we have a
pretty-
QR code on the 10 M4 that if you scan it goes to daisyunderground.com.
That's awesome.
The one of the first items that got stolen, me and D-Zinc put a little Easter egg in. If you craft the burlap mask by
Mhm.
cutting a hole in it, it actually says ammo and D-Zinc on the back on the stamp.
That's pretty cool.
And a lot of our items have stuff like that.
Wow. Well, that's kind of how I felt too, Admiral. I mean, he says, I don't see why so many people would steal the assets when many are freely available on third model websites and stuff. You know, there's similar things.
Because it's more work. They're,
oh,
they're
well,
not ready
see.
for DayZ.
There you go. That's the answer. It
We look
does,
at those
it takes more
websites as
work.
well for some work. Some items that are in the Doug mod are from websites like that. We've paid for the work, or in some instances they're free. But usually we go for the paid ones more because higher quality. And usually when it comes, it's not from the Doug funds. I know people donate to the server all the time, but that goes strictly to the server. If there's a model, or texture or something like that we're interested in, it usually comes from our own pockets. The majority of the time comes from ammo.
That's pretty cool, though.
Oh, I see Creep is in the chat. Creep is an excellent dude. Creep UA.
You guys get
He made some of the best models on Doug. He made the for instance the Black Cross helmet that you can flip the thing on. I don't know the name.
Absolutely beautiful in-game object. I absolutely love the Black Cross helmets. It's fantastic. I like a lot of the stuff that I see in the game. It is admittedly noticeable, right? Because it's, you know, what they're wearing on their heads.
He also made the bugle indeed for the 506. He made the wolf head whistle. He made some, and he helped us with a ton of other issues that we. And he's working on 2 more faction items, which I can't share any info on, but look out for those.
So I got to tell you, that's something else that I find absolutely amazing about what you guys do, because it's not just the things that you want to see, and it's not just some you know, things that just look cool or whatever. You're actually helping to reward people who are contributing and giving to the server over, you know, a year's time. It's like showing that, you know, it's kind of appreciation for, you know, other people as well. So it's kind of like this big, you know, everything kind of goes hand in hand. And I mean, the faction items are just fantastic. Just the idea behind, you know, that you guys actually go through that extra effort for people who contribute.
Well, the whole faction system, or making sure that only faction members can craft stuff. That's an idea we had from before we went self-hosted and before we could mod. We wanted to be able to make sure that our factions get rewarded for giving back to the community. And yeah, I finally had an inspirational weekend with a ton of beer and made the faction system.
That's really awesome. I mean, that is really cool. And again, there were a lot of faction items that people don't know. I don't know what they all are right now, actually. I know Torchwood had like a flaming bat. I know the Black Cross has the sweet aviator helmet design. What else? So Volca had the wolf whistle, right? And then
the bugle for the 5.6.
Yeah, the sheeps have a stuffed sheep.
Yep.
Which is beautiful, by the way. That's
also
really
also it's all the faction items are Creep's work.
Nice. Well, great job, Creep. And thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah. And then there's the priest ropes, and then there's
Cannibal knife.
Cannibal knife, yeah, for the for Dam.
The clown face paint.
Oh, by the way, let me just say right now, I mean, yeah, the face paints are great. I really like the camo face paints and everything else, but I love the clown face paint. I actually got to play with one of them kind of early on, and it is just super cool, man. They look so good. I mean, I don't think anybody could argue that, you know. I mean, you look at like, you know, anybody with the clown face paint on it. It just looks, it's both creepy and just great looking and very realistic. I mean, it's fantastic work.
Yeah. The face paint is all Quartz Puffy Star that made those textures.
Yeah, whoever put that, I mean, that's just fantastic stuff. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like the quality that you guys put out, the whole team, everybody who gets involved with it is just blows my mind. It's fantastic. I mean, I could never even begin to. I couldn't even think of some of this stuff. You know what I mean? Excuse me. But it's great.
Wilk, what can the modding team tell us that is coming down the pipeline? Well, like I said, there's 2 more faction items in the work. One for the Rangers and one for Dugout. Dugout has been waiting 9 months, but we finally have a solution for their request. Can't share what it is, but yeah, it'll be cool, as usual. And another thing I've been meaning to work on still is more PvE, and that ties into Purple Manatee's question, more PvE related stuff. For instance, I want more variety of fish. We have 3 fishes right now, with the carp and the koi carp being one, and then the other one, the sea fish. But I want more variety of fish, and I want to do some stuff with cooking. Like, I have a whole document written up on how it will work, but it's not. Yeah, I haven't had the time to actually make it work. There's half-baked shit currently, and it needs to be good. Oh,
let me see here. Yeah, I was actually looking for Jari's comment. It was nice of him to throw it in the chat for me because he had it on my Discord. Well, the first one he asked, I thought was pretty awesome. Why haven't the mod team added dinosaurs yet? I mean, I don't know why they hate good additions, but
you keep an eye out. You never know. There might be a little bit of some bones somewhere.
I'm telling. Oh, that would be cool. I was actually. I'm like, dude, I want to ride a raptor. Come on, ride a raptor into battle. I'm just kidding. God, no hate mail. Thank you.
Full Manatee did do a
no,
good
yeah,
question.
he was saying, the difference between like the balance of PvP and PvE versus RP modded items. Now, this is something that hits me as well because I got upset one day. I guess it was like one of the updates, and I was like, God, more guns, more weapons, you know. And it wasn't a big deal. It was actually Torchwood's. Like, it was the day, I remember it now. It was when Torchwood, they got their bat and stuff. I was just like, damn, man, it would just be nice. See, what I was thinking, and this is me, like, I know other servers do things their own way, okay? Some things that I found interesting, I think I've brought this up on the show before, is it would be really cool if we could just have like role play versions of certain clothing items and things that you might be able to spawn with. The thing that made me think of this was another server does that, but they actually charge you for it and that sort of thing.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do that here, sadly.
No. Right. Well, part of the reasoning that I had, and I'm gonna ask you guys, especially in a technical standpoint, because what it basically is taking a texture and putting it on something else, like a 20 slot item, you know, whatever. But the reason why I figured you guys probably will never see that kind of thing is because of the hardcore nature of the game, and I think part of the like for the PvP people, going out and finding your weapons, finding your ammo, finding your magazines, finding all of that stuff is very important. And it also adds variety as to every time you respawn, you know, how are you going to approach life now, because you know you don't have the thing you had a minute ago. And I kind of think it's the same way with the hardcore role players. You know, I would love to spawn in with like a specific outfit every time just so I could immediately be
did
recognizable. But
on
that
the
takes
first
some of the
interaction.
fun out of the game, right?
Well, on the first iteration of the faction system, we had everyone spawn with their armband, and that came with its own meta, both good and bad.
Mhm.
Basically, because the first thing was nobody wants to craft it, so everyone wants to spawn with it. But the thing happened was that there would be people on the coast who hunted fresh spawns in the hopes that maybe we'll catch the infamous Sertse Volca. We'll get their armbands. So people would do is they immediately spawn, take their armband off of them, and then throw it into the ocean, and then run inland because they don't know whether or not they're going to die or not. It's 50-50 chance. For some groups, they didn't care, and that's why you would probably see a ton of them on the coast.
Mm.
We eventually changed that. So now it's a system where it's, I believe, 50% of a sewing kit makes one armband with one white armband.
Yes. On proxies question, more variety. We already have a ton of variety. For instance, there's it might not be the clothes that you wear, but we do strive for variety. There's a ton. There's even some items that only spawn one of each because there's just not enough room in the CLE for more.
Oh, no, that's an interesting question. We'll get to it. Go ahead. I'm gonna write that down. Hold on. Sorry.
And there's a ton of variety, and we discussed it with Sumrak as well. He's currently in the lead of DayZ. I met the guy in Cologne at Gamescom, but yeah, when we discussed it as well, and he got sent our CLE, and he's like, "Oh, you guys have a ton of extra items, but you're not spawning more than vanilla. What? How?" And we just divided it. Say there's there's 5 vanilla variants of a certain backpack, and there's total 50 spawning, so that's 10 per, basically. And then when we add 5 more variants, it's now 5 per. And then for certain color variants, we lower, and others we raise. But yeah, that's basically how it works when doing the CLE.
Nice. My CLE related question in that regards is because you mentioned there's just not room. I had never even considered that. So is that an issue with the CLE? Like, is there really only so many spots that you can put things in it? Or I mean, is it like, because it's not infinite, is it? Where you could just add larger numbers for the random numbers to pull?
Oh, you can. Oh, you can. No problem. But then you get the extra loot servers.
Mm-hmm.
So
I see. Yeah, that's how those
you
work.
You get those servers with 3 AKs in the bathroom in a military barrack.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
see, I
because
haven't played on any of those servers, so I don't know.
No, but yeah, and a lot of people have played what Yari says there as well. A lot of people have played so long on Doug and not on vanilla, they don't realize how much custom clothing there is on the server. For instance, the purple raincoat isn't vanilla, but it fits perfectly.
But are other raincoats vanilla though? Like, did you guys just
no,
recolor them, or is that new?
We recolored all the raincoats because to match the armbands more, and we
all the
matched.
way around. Black got changed because it was brown for some reason. One person had pointed out to me, so I corrected that. And then here recently was, for some reason, they made a choice with the armbands, which is they wanted to be less vibrant and for some reason brighter. So that caused issues with the orange raincoat and the red raincoat. So now every single raincoat armband matches their actual raincoat color.
That's awesome. That's I'm the kind of nerd that gets into that sort of thing. You know, I like if I cut up a raincoat and it looks a little different, I'm gonna be kind of like,
as far as I can tell, it's a choice for, I guess, better identification if somebody happens to wear that raincoat with it. Whatever it is, I'm not entirely sure. But I also was able to finally fix the dyeable armbands, so now they don't look like what somebody said was Laffy Taffy. They looked very clay-like. So now that should open up more options and actually still look good, like on the same level as actual raincoat armbands.
Nice. That's really cool.
Yeah, I just looked it up. We have to answer the guy about more variants, we currently have 364 unique new Doug items, and that's not including the books.
Nice.
So
nice. Is that
yeah.
including the cassettes?
That is including the 44 cassettes.
That's still awesome.
I think.
44.
But still, that's
terms of variants-
320 something unique items or retextures or anything.
For some variants, we have to come to a decision, which is, do we want to have, let's say, for example, this item needs to have something that's maybe white and black, and then maybe a blue and a red and a green. That kind of covers the basic color scheme for a majority of items. But then there are some that maybe we want to do something different, like maybe a purple or a yellow. I think in total for yellow, that's been a big one for some groups like scribes.
Mhm.
They maybe, I think, have at most 20 to maybe 25 of yellow choices to get, but that covers a decent spectrum for that, because at the end of the day, not many people are going to request that color besides maybe their group. So we still want to keep groups like them in mind, but we have to remember that they are still technically the minority in it.
Urban Crisis, to answer your question, how hard would it be to make your own node mod integrated into the Doug mod? It wouldn't be hard. However, Wardog will be releasing a version of the node mod that you can make your own node mod of, but not integrated. So we will still be running a separate node mod, but it might probably, or will probably be the Doug node mod. To answer that question. But currently we can't integrate it. I asked, he gave me permission half a year ago, but he came back on his decision. So yeah.
Well, there you go. It would be nice to get to find some more thumbtacks in game again, be able to hang my notes up and stuff. That would be really wonderful. But it's all right. At least they stand erect in the middle of the street.
I might be able to patch it into the Doug mod, but then that would make the Doug mod dependent on the node mod. And we've had several instances previously. The question hasn't been asked yet, but where we were dependent on another mod, and it fucked up.
Well, that would be a problem, especially because you guys aren't in control of those mods, you know. So if it's dependent on another mod and that other mod messes up, then is that gonna throw the Doug mod out of whack? Then wouldn't it?
More so, throw the server off to the point which it may require a wipe to fix the issue.
Yeah.
Which is what I believe happened with CodeLock mod.
Yeah, with the CodeLock mod, we had to wipe the server because it was fucked.
Yeah. Now, see, that's an excellent point, because a lot of people do mention the CodeLock mod, and I think it's because, you know, it still doesn't take, you know, a ridiculous amount of time to brute force a 4-dial. I mean, it's a couple hours maybe, but I mean a 5. I mean, I admit would be a lot longer. We would like to be able to do that, but you know, what are you gonna do? People will just knock your wall down in 20 minutes anyway, so. It doesn't matter one way or the other. People want to get in, they're going to get in. One of the mods that I really liked that I saw on a PvE server was the More Doors mod. I would love to have been able to put that in just to, because
that has its own problems.
I imagine it does. Go ahead, I'll let you talk about it if there's anything else.
Yeah, well, it has been requested before, and I looked at it, and I can even just use the assets from the More Doors mod in the Doug mod. Mm-hmm. So that's allowed, I believe, from the license that's on. But the issue is that, for instance, I like the window barricading. I think a lot of people agree that barricading is a better system than the base building system we have now. But maybe not everybody will agree, but a lot of people, at least the old admin team and the mod team, agrees with me that will be a better solution to base building. Like barricade buildings, build some extensions, but not these ridiculous bases.
Yeah, it would be cool. In case people don't know that mod real quick, all it really does is it allows you to place a realistic looking door anywhere pretty much, and the way and it acts like a gate where you can rate it and you can put a 4-dial on it and you could, you know, all of that, and that's what we're talking about is why it won't work well with us.
Yeah, well, the problem is that you cannot target a window specifically for barricading. So what you're basically giving somebody is a plank that they can free place, like the nodes could be free placed. Well, you can't stand on a note, but you can stand on a plate or a plank. So, yeah,
Yeah.
this is tricky. If you can immediately see the exploits.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And that's unfortunate because I mean, it's just something that just makes things look cleaner. You know, because I thought about it, it's like you open it, you got a gate, you open it, it goes through the walls and all this other stuff, and it's kind of like such a pain to try to block off windows and these sorts of things. But I've come to find out, especially with the Build Anywhere mod removed, that you just get creative. I mean, I personally haven't had a lot of problems with it that other people have had with removing Build Anywhere. I don't know. Maybe that's something we might want to go over again. Is especially since you guys are actually here, is why it was removed, and why we're probably not going to see it again.
Well, I was never. It got added while I was still an admin. I was never for adding it. I was very much against it. But I got overruled by the rest, and they said, "Yeah, add it. It's just shit right now, blah blah." And well, I warned about the policing that would need to take place, and I think the policing and the performance is the main reason that it got removed. People were just building a dozen stacked gates.
It became true safe spaces because it wasn't worth raiding those places until maybe the end of a wipe when no one cares anymore.
Right.
But seeing that vanilla has, because back then I can see why people were against it, but the reason why people were so for it was because base building was still in the infancy. It had just came out, and there was not many options to do anything. It was so sensitive. The slightest bit of an incline or decline in the hillside, you can't build there. So your options were extremely limited. But now that we're seeing it's been expanded upon and still being worked on, improved, that people can even build inside buildings now compared to before, which you couldn't. You can even do watchtowers inside certain buildings that are high enough for it.
Yeah.
Which we found that at this point, why don't we revert to the vanilla system? Sure, some bases are going to suffer from it, but it takes out, what is the term, like 2 birds with 1 stone, basically, with it.
Yeah, and it takes away a lot of the, well, Mr. Blue can chime in, or whoever from the admin team, that, well, me, Diesel, T-Zinc, Recluse does a lot of that work. We used to fly the server invisible and just checking bases or checking reports of bases, and it just ticket upon ticket of illegal wall here. Could you remove this wall? I accidentally. It just, yeah. That's not what you want to do. Oh, Diesel's back.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I was a little skeptical. Now, here's the thing. I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, okay, my experience with DayZ, I'm like, this is my 8th month in DayZ, and 99% easily has been spent on Doug. I think I've got over 2,000 hours. I would say probably 20 to maybe 30 hours were on other servers. So my experience is very limited when it comes to trying to discuss what other servers do and whatnot. So I was a little skeptical when you guys were going to pull that mod, the Build Anywhere mod, because I mean, again, I have limited vanilla knowledge. But what I have noticed, and coming from a layman like myself, what I have noticed is that it has really improved the server, especially in regards to the CLE and finding things. And this might be something that with Dieselback we could talk about here in a minute, the CLE and drop rate, not specific numbers, but the concept behind it. But I mean, it's weird to me. It was so weird for like the first month after this wipe, throwing away shovels or not picking up shovels, because I was so used to them being rare to find, or even like 3 dials. I mean, there was a while where I was finding 3 dials like around every corner. I think at one point I had seen like 8 4 dials, not at once, but I mean, in my possession at one point before I started trading them and giving them away. And it was like, that was so unheard of. For the first, few months that I played, it was so incredibly hard.
Let me interrupt. The issue was not Built Anywhere with the loot. It was the flags.
Oh, right.
And the flags got fixed after Diesel, I think. Well, Diesel can explain what he did.
We can't hear you.
Your light goes on. We can't hear you.
Okay, you get me now?
All right. Yeah.
So I have somewhat of a relationship with some of the BI team. So, and I asked, we were asking, like, something's not right with flags, and they're like, we got reports of that, but we can't reproduce it. And so I sent them Doug basically and went, here's our entire server. Like, load the mod, start her up, and here's all my values. Here's, like, here's our entire CLE, everything. Log in, and this is what happens. And through that, they were like, oh, and it wasn't anything to do with Doug, but it's just when I explained to them what the player experience was and what the server owner experience was, like, here's everything we've done, and here's all the settings, and like stuff is still like, I've set the lifetime on this item to be like, let's say I never did this, but like 30 minutes, and the damn thing never disappears. Like, it's always here. And then it was then that they were like, oh yeah, now we figured it out, right? And we had Ammo go through the code, and we're like, just fix the flags, and he's like, the flags say that they're working like exactly how we want them to, but it just doesn't work.
Oh, I did fix them. I made their range.
Yeah, and so, but submitting a ticket, giving them the details, a couple of side chats through Discord, and it's like, oh, and then the light bulb moment happens for them, and they're like, oh yeah, here it is, and they just go and fix it. And it takes them like, I don't know how long, but they're just like, oh yeah, we see the problem now, thank you. And literally like a couple weeks later, boop, flags are fixed. It was like, oh my god. But yeah,
I fixed the flag in a sneaky way. I made the range, effective range 0.
Yeah, well,
nice.
that was the hack.
There you go. But I don't know. I mean, look, man, there was some times when it's hard, because it's like you have some certain things you don't want to lose. Like right now, well, I've got a video, okay, before the last wipe, when you guys took out a Build Anywhere. I didn't know what to expect, and I really liked the way I had built out my apartment. So I decided on wipe there, the day before wipe, that I was going to walk through the apartment and video it, just so I could have it, And I'm sitting there doing it. I'm listening to myself commentate it as I watch it later, and I realize I'm sitting there making all these excuses as to why I have like 16 piles of crap all throughout my apartment. And I was like, dang, man, I didn't realize just how dependent on that bug I had become, because it was just something that happened over time, And I wasn't like, oh, it's like I'll throw something down for a minute. I come back, like 6, 8 hours later, and oh, it's still there, well, here, there's empty slots, and I'll drop this stuff in it. I'm going to run out real quick. It all happened like when I was just trying to like run in, drop stuff off, and go off and do things, And it's like the next thing I know, it's like 3 weeks later, and I've just got like 16 piles of crap everywhere. And then it's like, you know what? I think I'm going to sort all this one day. And then I sit there for like 4 hours going through all this crap, and I'm not even like halfway done. And I'm like, man, I'm telling you, it was like one of the things, them fixing that flag was beautiful. It freed me up. It's what it was. It's like, it felt like it released me, from the, but then I had a totally different issue, which was being concerned with the despawn timers. And I think I finally just about broken myself of being obsessed with despawn timers. And I don't want to get into like the very specifics of that, but I have mentioned
play the game, not the numbers.
I have mentioned before that when this wipe first started, what I was doing was I'd gone and tried to study the despawn timers, and then I would do things like I would log in within certain amounts of time and make sure I refresh things so I wouldn't lose them. I'm only mentioning this now because if you've done it, you know how addicting it is. And I am encouraging you not to ever start doing that, because once you start, it becomes so freaking hard. And that's one of the things that kind of inspired me, was like the way the Dugout does it. I mean, when I first started this game, right, it was before flags were even introduced, and somebody introduced me to the Dugout, and I went to the Dugout, and I was like, oh my God, I mean, they got like 30 backpacks on the ground. Like, how do they not despawn? And the guy that was with me was Robert. He was like, well, he goes, they just have so many people that come through here and that are part of it and everything, that there's just no chance that this stuff will despawn. And I was really floored by that, that
not just that
amazing, but
because there are times where I was a member of the Dugout during that time. I'd be one of the people who organized the bags, get them all nice, straight, neat looking. Nice. And there would be some of us who wake up at midnight, 4 in the morning, 8 in the morning, and refresh every single bag for the peak time the next day. Yeah.
That's hard. It's hard to do it that way if you're solo. I can only, like, and then you have like a schedule. I mean, it's interesting, and it's great. It's cool that people, go through that effort. I mean, for me, it became very cumbersome. It was like, I rarely got more than 6 hours of sleep ever. For me, and it just wasn't healthy for me. But with a team of people, it wouldn't be so bad. And the fact that the thing about it, the difference here, okay, I'm going to say it. The difference is when I do it, it's usually for myself. It's selfish, because it's just for me, or maybe it's just stuff that I pick up because, I run an aid station and I give things to people. So it might be those kinds of things. But for the dugout, it was totally different because the dugout is a community camp, and the dugout was, or at least that way, it was open to everybody and everybody could benefit from it. So to me, that the difference is that was more of a server and community thing, and it's still going on, by the way, if you guys haven't been by, Meta.
Yeah, but removing Build Anywhere was good.
Was very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
People have lived, or they decided to move on to a different place, and that's completely their choice.
Yeah. Well,
if a mod that is enough to break you, then hopefully another server can help support you elsewhere.
See, I think that's kind of a healthy attitude to have about it too, because you're never going to make everybody happy. And I think, most of us are all pretty well grounded in that, we're not going to make everybody happy. So what we have to do is focus on the things that will make the player experience the best for people all around. And I think that's really the crux of that decision anyway. And especially with the performance issues and whatnot. I didn't experience a lot of them, but again, I didn't go to a lot of the big bases and stuff. So I definitely defer to the experience of the people who did. And almost everybody has talked about how the performance is completely turned around now.
Yeah, not only for the client, for the server as well.
That's good too. Let's see. I'm gonna bring up a couple of questions real quick. I've only got like 6 or 7 that I pulled out of here, but one of them that I wanted to mention, which was not too long ago. This is from. All right, let me see. I didn't actually get the name, so I apologize. But anyway, somebody said, "How do you guys deal with a community asking the same questions over and over again? I'm a mod for a server, and they trigger me something serious because they just keep getting it. It's like, how do you guys unwind from it?
Selective hearing.
Don't live on Discord. Don't do that to yourself, please.
Gotta be
I know Discord, or I know Diesel has a very interesting take on it.
I have a great take lately.
Sure.
Because here's the thing, guys. If you meme or shitpost in the Discord, in the modding Discord channels, I just block you.
There you go.
And I will never see any of your suggestions, quote unquote, ever again, which is great for me because you're just shitposting. But the other side of it, the downfall of it, is that you could have the best suggestion next week ever, and I will never see it.
No,
so I just don't have that kind of time, right?
Right.
I'm old and cranky. I didn't give my age at the start like Ammo and D-Sync did, but I'm older than they are.
You can also blame us.
Really?
When it comes to the mod channel, we never speak up, very rarely. And like Ranger Corey said that, we just come in to roast somebody. But at the end of the day, there's no malice, I think, behind what we post in there. It's pretty much the most straightforward. It's just text isn't the best platform to put something in there because somebody may think there's a form of emotion that isn't positive behind it. It's mainly just the simplest, easiest thing, which is, hey, this will be awesome to add. We'll probably look into it, or no, it's not going to work. We get straight to the point. We're not going to sit there and type out 10 paragraphs as to why. I did that one time, and I will never do that ever again, because within a week, it's already forgotten. Because that's sadly the platform that Discord is. It's a chat room, not a discussion board.
No, that is my biggest gripe with people clinging to Discord the way they do. Is that it is a horrible place to have any kind of meaningful discussion. And that's literally why. Because not only, there's a couple of reasons, but you've hit them all. I mean, it's that people read emotion into it, and they do get emotional because a lot of times we're debating with each other about things that are really important to us. But then it all just vanishes into the ether, and there's no way to go back and really look at it and consider it. And most of these things that people are saying are just kind of off the cuff. It's not even like we take the time to really sit there. Like if it was a message board, where it's like, oh, you could read all their stuff. You could actually sit there and think about your response, come up with your points, phrase it all as best you can, put it out there, and then, let people disseminate it that way. This stuff is like, it's just constant, man. And it's like really hard to stay focused and to actually arrive at a reasonable conclusion when you're communicating that way. It's tough.
and then
So-
next week it starts all over again.
Yeah,
Have we talked
exactly.
about what's sort of the best way? What's the worst way or the best way to make a suggestion for the server about modding?
No,
Have
that's
we
a great
discussed that yet?
question.
No.
No.
Okay.
Great point.
So here's the worst way to do it. Make a suggestion that only benefits you or
Mhm.
that revolves around your style of play. Those almost entirely are ignored, and not really ignored because they're bad, but it's just Doug has to cater to a ton of people. Like, I don't know what the average is of unique Steam IDs that logs into Doug every day, but it's a lot. And it's great that you might want, like, you play this way, or you think this is fair, or whatever, or maybe you and your 10 buddies think that's fair or the way the game should be played. But you got to think about the community. And the best way I can think about this is a suggestion. This was, I don't know how many years ago now. Asmodian. I think I'm saying that right. Asmondian. What's his name?
Asmondian.
Asmondian. There you go. Came into the Discord one day and said, you know what? I think it would be really cool if on Doug, really anywhere, but it happened on Doug, if you could look down at the radio that's on your backpack and just reach up and turn it on and turn it off.
Already told that story.
Oh, okay. And literally 12 hours later, that mod was live in Doug. That is a suggestion, right? Because it benefited the entire community.
Mm-hmm.
We read that and was like, oh my God, like it's so simple. Like, simple in the fact of the idea behind it. I don't know what went into it, but it was just so perfect. It was just like, this is something that we could definitely do, and it benefits everyone. That's the penultimate of feedback or a modding suggestion. What's not a great modding suggestion? Hey, I think there should be more pink hats spawn. And you look at the character and you look at, Doug share content, and that person's PID is pink hats. Okay. That benefits, a very, very, very small number of people that play the game, especially Doug. So no, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that it's a no. It's just like, yeah, that's, even if it made the priority list, it would be so far down, it would probably never get to the top, unfortunately, because there's always something more important. So don't suggest things that benefit your play style only. Not to say that they won't make it, or your PID only, because they're probably not going to make it. It's think about the entire community and think about balance.
Speaking of balance,
Mm-hmm.
wanted because Corrupted Smurfs has brought it in, and this was actually a great scenario, and I
Yeah,
blame
it's
myself for
okay.
it because I was a proponent of it. And I sat there for a good hour trying to convince Diesel and Yari and Ammo that hey, this is needed for the server, which was a suggestion was put in saying that for radios, they need to be map wide, or at the very least, a larger radius compared to before, because no one's using them. I sat there and I was like, hey, this is a great suggestion, and look at that, there's 30 people who agree with this. I think this might be a good idea. If it's not going to be a full map, let's increase the range at the least. And I was able to convince them, finally, begrudgingly, to an extent, and it was added. This is what happens within a week. Everyone's on the radio, shit talking, playing music, blasting, and probably during public hours, there's probably one or two people shouting profanity that should not be shouted. And you can't really track that, so that's what everyone gets to hear on 87.8. Is someone saying the N-word, the F-word, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes to, finally, people are upset, and within the next week, they're now asking it for it to be reverted. So finally, we decide we're going to do that. Next week follows. No one's on the radio anymore. I can't hear anybody. What's going on? Let's increase the range again. And becomes a slippery slope of back and forth. Hey, we want this increased. Oh, I changed my mind. I now want it decreased. Increase, decrease. No one is ever really happy for it. But we decided to find, maybe to an extent, a different way of looking at it, which was the headset radios. There are some people who want only a short a wave or a short distance communication, which that
Mhm.
provides. If you want a
Right.
medium distance, you have the personal little handheld radio. And if you want a map wide, you need to have some risk involved with it. You have the big backpack radio, or you can go to a place like Alter, but again, the Scribes own that place, so they have
Mhm.
control over it.
Mm-hmm. See, it's great. I'm really glad that you addressed this question because it is something that comes up a lot. Even, I mean, no matter where you talk, Toxic Alien absolutely nails it. You're never going to make everybody happy. So these guys do the best they can for what is going to balance the server the best. I do think it's interesting. The radio thing was always interesting to me. I mean, again, I play a reverend who does sermons, so I have an interest in it. I know that there are people who run in radio stations or try to, and it's a nice feature. It's something nice to have in the game, but it really does. There are only X number of frequencies, and if we're all, I mean, if there, it's going out there, it limits what people can do. People talk over each other, the whole thing. I mean, it's just hard. It's really, I can't even imagine a way of balancing it to where it would work out, except for this. I
Well,
really like the idea of the headset radios being like really close together, and because some things should be for tactical use anyway. And it's like if you're trying to do tactical comms and somebody like really far away is hearing it and speaking over it and all that, then it kind of defeats the whole point of using the radio that way in the first place.
well, you
So,
can do a radio show.
Mhm.
Just stand in the center of the map, and you'll reach almost the entire map.
Now is that true? Like with a handheld radio, does it really reach
Yeah.
that far?
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
Or at the
man.
very least, a backpack radio.
Yeah, of course. Well, I
yeah, or
actually
use a
had
backpack radio. But
I had
yeah,
a radio transceiver one time. I
We've
never
had a
used
couple
it.
of people do radio shows. We had the Waveside Network, and we had a couple
Yeah.
other people.
I think that's really cool too. I mean, especially people say, "Oh, you have a radio voice. You should do this stuff," and I'm like, "No, I don't really want to." And then I hear other people doing it, and it got me fascinated, and to listen to other people in the way that they would role play this stuff out and everything. I mean, it's just really cool. So I hope that that stuff gets going again in a regular way. But it's just another element of flavor to the server that way, But good, nothing the mod team really do much about. One question I saw
Oh,
earlier, I thought I
yeah.
had cut and pasted, unless you guys had something more on the radios.
No.
Okay. One of the questions that I had that I just wanted to throw in here was basically what ratio, like when people make suggestions, you got Discord, you can do the little emotions, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever, poop signs or whatever. What amount of those do you guys pay attention to where you're like, oh my God, look, man, it looks like
Exactly.
1,000 people.
Exactly
Yeah.
0.
Perfect. I love that answer.
For me, probably 10% at most.
Yeah.
And that's why that actually played into a thing for me for the radios, which a lot of people liked it. And that would barely influence what I thought, because there are people who meme downvote people or meme upvote, or they'll
Mhm.
type out a thing like DUG and emote, or they'll put like disabled wheelchair emote.
Yeah, well, and me and Diesel are the grumpy old man in the team, and we just go like, nope, fuck that.
That's great. See, I like it because, I mean, look, man, I understand. I mean, I think about politics. I do all this stuff. And my idea is that just because a lot of people want something doesn't mean that it's what's best for everybody. And what's great about applying that to something like Doug or like a game server is because it's on a micro level as opposed to like the real world. So you can really or you could really like look at this stuff and examine it and predict what's going to happen from it. So even though a bunch of people might think something is cool and productive and would help, you guys have a little bit more insight and knowledge and maybe even more experience or whatever, and it just may not even be worthwhile. And I love that you care more. And correct me if I'm wrong, I doubt it, but that you guys care more about the success of the server overall and people's ability to enjoy the server overall than you do about individual opinions.
The success of the server is not important
Hmm.
at all. That plays no factor in it. We've been a top 10 server, we've been a top 100 server, we've been all the way in between. We've had queues, we've had low
Really
things.
single
That doesn't matter.
digits.
Single digit players, it doesn't matter. But we are with the admin team included, a benevolent dictatorship. That's how I call it.
Yeah.
So this is not a democracy.
Right.
So you can vote on whatever you want, but we're going to do what we want.
See, that's
And
what
what
Otherwise,
we
we would
think
probably have
is
bare
best.
50 cals airdrops with zombie hordes that explode on impact. You shoot them.
and dinosaurs.
Yeah, that too.
Raptors
You can ride
you
them.
can ride. Yes.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I've said the benevolent
flamethrowers.
dictatorship a couple of times, and people go like, "What? No." Okay, that's how it works.
See that kind of thing honestly instills more confidence for me to you guys when it comes to that kind of thing, because it's true. I mean, we see all kinds of things. We argue things in Discord all the time, and it's like, oh, well, this would be great, and we would like this and everything else, but and then people get mad when they don't get their way, and it's like, it's not like people actively dislike us, and it's not like they want there to be a bad experience on the server, but there are reasons, there are just reasons that we don't know behind decisions that get made. It's not like this stuff is like you guys aren't like throwing darts at a dartboard, yes, no, maybe, whatever. I mean, there are well thought out reasons for all this stuff.
Well, sometimes, yeah.
For the most part. Well, I'm trying to,
And
trying to help
sometimes
you
it's
guys
just
out
like,
there.
oh, fuck it, let's just try this and see if it works.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
So yeah. That's the creative aspect. So let's see if this works, or if I come up with something and Diesel goes, "Why? I don't agree." It's like, because we can.
There's also a great other thing is when testing stuff. Let's say, for example, the face paint. In the beginning stages, it worked. On our test server, it worked. In community offline mode, it worked. So when everything was done, ready to be packaged and shipped to the server, we sent it out. And whenever everyone started using it, it was completely broken. Faces were melding into other character model faces. People were growing beards when they were women.
Oh, the Iris.
Yes.
That
Oh.
was the best picture ever. Iris friggin' put on the makeup and she turned herself into a troll. It was hilarious.
That's great.
We can do everything right, and it still comes out broken and wrong.
Oh, goodness.
It's just the magic of Daisy.
That wasn't my proudest moment. I was proud of the face paint. I mean, fuck yeah, nobody else has done it yet. Well, I gave it to DTU, but
To be fair, when we test things, we try to test them in as many ways as possible. Like when I test things, when I used to test things, I guess Desync has, I must say, a big shout out to Desync for stepping up on the testing, because I don't even have to break anything anymore because he does it for me. But
Nice.
it's not only like, oh, face paint, you paint somebody's face and they go, okay, great, it works. You paint one person's face and, oh yeah, it works, and it keeps going. Then it's like, how can I break this? This is what you got to think about when you're testing things. This is how it's supposed to work. And now what if I tried to fuck that up royally? Like,
What if I throw into a fireplace? Will it crash the server?
What is a player going to do with this? Right? What is the worst thing a player is going to do with this new item or action? And that's when you figure out, oh yeah, okay, right? This is what goes happen. This is what goes wrong. So yeah, I mean, and we don't catch them all. And that's why people need to stand up sometimes and do say something. A perfect example recently, Samaritan, and you may curse him, but I like him. He stood up and said, hey, the timer for deconstructing, taking down your base, like your poles out of the ground with a hoe, is different than a shovel. And when I first read it, I went, oh, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. And then I read it again and went, that's completely broken. A hoe shouldn't be able to dig a log into the ground. And I just wrote back to him, hey, thanks, I'll remove that. Or I'll have Emma remove that because I don't do it. And it was, there he is. And it was perfect because it was like we had no idea, that a hoe could do base building. Never thought to test it. It was just, oh well, because generally speaking, BI does make most things pretty fair and pretty reasonable. So when they put a hose in the game, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And it just kind of slipped by. But so by all means, if you do think there is something that is not working correctly, mention it, because
don't be a person that says, oh, I know something, but I'm not going to tell you.
Oh my God, don't even go there.
They're my favorite people. Is like, hey, because they use it to their advantage.
I was about to say
there was an entire raid meta that was going on, And again, no one brought it up ever because they wanted to use it to their own game.
That's
And
technically
we tell them, hey,
exploiting.
file a ticket. Yeah, to an extent, yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you
But
know
you
that
tell them,
there's a
hey,
bug,
file a
then you
ticket.
use it.
Then they don't. They'll say, oh, I'll get to it, but then they don't.
See, that drives me nuts. I don't like the phrase pet peeve, but I'll tell you, if I did, this would be one of them. And I see it all the time. And like most games that I play, it irritates the crap out of me when people find a bug and then they use the bug. And then when you say, hey, you're exploiting, they're like, no, I'm not. It's like, dude, that is the literal definition of exploiting. It's not exploiting. You're exploiting a bug. That's the entire phrase. Is that you're bug exploiting, and that is cheating because you're using a bug, and using it to your advantage in an unintended way. I mean,
I wouldn't say a
to
bug.
me,
It's an
it seems
unintended
like
feature.
obvious. Okay, fine, but to me, it seems really obvious. If something's not working as intended and you're doing it, I mean, it just, to me, now it just may just be me and my, I don't want to say ethic because it makes it sound like I'm better than somebody, and that's not the point at all. But it's still,
it's a good
it's
choice of words because
Yeah.
what it comes down to is there are people who choose to take certain types of word or rather the verbiage as law, and they'll do anything they can to rule lawyer or just lawyer in general to spin it to work towards them. So
Mhm.
if you say something's a bug, they're going to say, well, no, it's not a bug because there's nothing wrong with this. Look at this. See, it does, everything is intended. It just happens the value is different than maybe it should be.
Mhm.
So they're going to justify to themselves it's okay. So when I say something that's an unintended feature,
Mhm.
then it works better in the favor for everybody. And in the future, they try to look at something. Instead of saying, oh, it's a bug, they'll keep in their head, it's an unintended feature. It's not meant to work like this. So maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
Right. And again, I say all of this now with the caveat I've already admitted that I completely used flags to my advantage, whether it was intended at first or not. Eventually, at some point, I looked around and said, crap, I'm really doing this. So, it's real easy to do, and at least in my opinion, if you're not paying attention. But I think that there's also a difference between people who are going out of their way to try to use something
Yes, exactly.
exploitive. I mean, and especially if it's something that only they can do, or something, it's something that's a repeatable bug kind of issue. It's different.
One thing that's
or
important
a
is always to
repeatable
look at
unintended feature.
always look at somebody's intent behind
Yeah.
doing something.
That's good.
Don't
It's
just
good that
immediately
you guys
assume they're going out to
do
do
that
something
too.
malicious. There are instances where somebody will there's like there's a player model exploit that turns people into what people have quoted a meatball, which contracts their character inside of itself, but they can still shoot and everything. But from what you see is they're literally just a floating sphere.
Wow,
Not
that
everyone does
sucks.
that intentionally. That can
Yeah.
happen by accident, and somebody needs to be pointed out, hey, you're broken right now. Try to get yourself fixed, or maybe relog to fix it.
Yeah, that's a rough one, dude. That would be rough. But that's a good point. I'm actually glad this came up because there is, like I said, there's a lot of justification involved, with trying to do things that may or may not be right. That's why I kind of try to go by the rule that, I mean, it's like, if it's questionable, just don't do it because it's not, it's not important enough, and if you end up,
even better, ask,
Or
is this
ask,
intentional?
There you go. Hey, that's great because even then, if you guys didn't notice it and you mention it, and and it was unclear, then we can get a ruling on it, and then there might be something that can be fixed.
Or it can be fixed, or report to BI, etc. But yeah.
I mean, I've got one right now that I was going to mention. I can't believe I forgot to do it, but I found it. I found out about it yesterday.
Sorry,
but I'm not gonna say it now. I mean, it's a huge exploit. No, I'm just kidding. It's not really, but it could be. I'll call it Papergate. I'll leave it at that in case you guys are going to know about it eventually. It's pretty funny. But, I'll put it to you this way because, well, no, I'll wait. I'm not going to put it out here because, it could affect performance issues too.
on a more positive note, there's also
do it now.
intended features that people don't know about. On a more positive note, there's also intended features that people may not know about. For instance, did you know you could cut off the press logo from a press vest or the logo from a Ushanka? Just use a knife on Doug. Only on Doug. Positive features.
And the reasons for that, because I know I put it in our little doc from earlier, which was I'm surprised the question actually hasn't come up in the chat yet, which is there's a reason why we did the cut off the press vest. It's to help with armor being more concealed than it probably should be, and I should segue into basically why is there no things like black plate carriers, black press vests, etc. Vamo wants to take over for that.
Oh yeah, well, you can cut the press logo off a press vest. Just use a knife. And the same you can do with the. Some people didn't like the different logos on the Ushankas, but they like the colors. So we added the ability to cut the logo off a Ushanka.
Oh, I want to talk about why are we not having items in the game like black plate
Oh,
carriers,
yeah.
black press
Oh.
vests?
Yeah, black clothing. That's a recurring fucking question.
I can tell you why
Um,
there's no black clothing. It's to cut down on the chads.
There you go.
No,
Man.
it's just it doesn't add variety. I can't name names, but there's plenty of groups that just have complete black outfits with 2 color items, and then that's their PID. And yeah, be more original. I mean, and that's one of the reasons. So not every, but that goes for other colors as well. So not every item will be available in every color.
Mm-hmm.
The
See,
reason we
this
should
is
bring
no, go ahead. Well, I was just
balancing.
gonna say, well, yeah, it is bound. This is interesting because look, man, I thought about this question, and I play the Reverend, and I would love to run around and I choose black because it's kind of a traditional color among clergymen, black or white or whatever, and it looks cool. I mean, there's no question about that. But what I have found is that the not having everything available in black has actually been very, very good, and it's actually helped me broaden my own creativity and mindset when it comes to how my character is dressed. Like, right now he has like 3 or 4 different colors and different outfits. He likes hunting jackets, and now I would like to find more than camo white or blue hunting jackets, but I've been able to piece together different outfits that I find are pretty unique to my character because I have been kind of forced to try different things, and I really like that. It took me a little while to get out of that mindset. And I think a lot of us have that. You guys mentioned Chad or whatever, but it's true. I mean, when you get something in your head, and it's like, oh, I really like this. It's like it's easy to focus on that one thing. But when you don't have that option all the time, it forces you to I guess branch out of your comfort zone and to try new things. And PID and clothing options are important in that regard, in my opinion. But
For balancing, let's say for example, somebody's a plate carrier, and we want people to be able to see that you have that type of armor on you. They're ready to prepare that, hey, maybe they want to go for a headshot instead, or they need to go back farther away and not do something that's close quarters, because especially the way plate carriers are at the moment, which is apparently the new big issue, is how easy they are to tank rounds, etc. Basically, if you wear a plate carrier, we want people to be able to see it. If you want to avoid people seeing it, my recommendation is wear something like a ghillie suit, or wear something that's more tan that goes along with it. There are things like there are 3 variants of the plate carrier. There's the vanilla, there's the USMC, and there is the camouflage one. Each one has its own little pieces, and I believe our camouflage plate carrier has its entire PID set. It has a tactical shirt, it has pants for it, it has even a towing backpack.
Hey, guys, I would actually tell you this too. If you think about it, we're playing in an apocalyptic setting. There aren't any factories open manufacturing clothes or any of this stuff. There's no Walmarts open. They're all open, in fact, but they're just not getting replenished. So it also makes sense if you think about it from a real life kind of perspective that you wouldn't be able to find everything you could possibly want in an apocalypse situation. So I would just say, like, even just in character, it makes sense that you wouldn't have everything you want in every color.
That's important too, though. It's the you got to consider where Chernarus is, like where the developers intended. It's a Soviet, Soviet area country, whatever it's supposed to be, Czech Republic or whatever. So you got to think about that region of the world. You got to think about what the developers gave us for a color palette. Quite often you'll notice that the Doug items and the Doug retextures, they fit with the world. If you look at some other mod packs that are out there, you'll see, bright. I always use this example, that bright purple fedora that's on some of the servers, and it's like, and it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with DayZ. It looks totally out of place in the world, and you'll notice that everything in the Doug mod pack fits with the color palette, and generally speaking, as much as possible, there's a few items that we have that don't, but as much as possible, fits in with sort of the environment that the developers have given us. That it's it's the Czech Republic or some type of Eastern Bloc country, and you're not going to find everything that you might find everywhere else. Even we had an argument, or not much of an argument, but a discussion a couple of patches back when we introduced like the ski goggles. And Desync's first iteration of them, they were really bright. The colors were like almost neon blue and stuff. And I said, hey, like they don't match. It doesn't match with the rest of Doug. It doesn't match with DayZ. Can you tone down? And he was like, oh, okay. So he just took the colors off the regular sunglasses that are included in the game, and that's what we got.
That's cool.
So
that's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
those
Actually, yeah.
those goggles were from
GDU.
a gift from DDU, and originally they were tactical goggles, but we changed them into ski goggles, more civilian, with the look we gave them.
We changed to
And
sports.
Yeah, sports goggles or whatever, and then gave the textures back to DDU to use as well.
Nice. Hey, let me
Yes,
ask
yeah.
you something, guys. Since Harvey brought it up, a great point. His comment is simply black spray paint, though. So my question to you guys is this, and I'm gonna step away for just a second after I ask it. Is like I've noticed, like with the what the hell are they called? The enduro helms. I used to like enduro helms a lot. Almost all of them are green. Every once in a while, I find them black and they look spray painted, but of course you can't spray paint the natural helms and make them black. So my question to you is what is it? What would it take to make that happen? For one, and I think it would be kind of cool if we could do that with more objects. But I imagine that it's just the same as adding anything else, right? Like you have to completely add in a whole new. I mean, how does that work with the spray paint?
Well,
And
right
different colors
now
and
right now we have black and green, the basic DayZ spray paints. Adding, for instance, red to the mix would mean all the items that you can currently spray paint green or black would need to be retextured in red. So just adding a single spray paint can isn't enough. You need to add all the textures for every item to match the new spray paint, and that's a ton of work. And we did some work on the current spray paint, the black and green. We use a ton of custom textures for those as well to just enable it. Custom coding, but yeah, so it's a fuck ton of work.
Yeah, people forget that spray paint isn't in vanilla.
And even I just forgot that right now. It's similar to just like clothes dyeing. That's still not even bleaching stuff. Not in the base game. That's us.
All right, like something so simple. So we literally just in a lot of things just adding spray paint back in. I think Ammo, correct me if I'm wrong, but just enabled you to paint certain key items that could be painted before. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, well,
Special weapon attachments finally.
But like BI's solution, so like you got the same helmet. What's the helmet? That's the UN helmet. There's a black green, the black
ballistic helmet.
The ballistic helmet.
Yeah.
So the base game, they just spawn in the black ones and the green ones, and they spawn in the UN ones, because that was how you get a black or a green helmet in vanilla. But on Doug, only the UN one spawns.
And the skull one.
Can you even craft a ghillie suit on vanilla still?
Yeah,
I think they only spawn chopper
you can, but so you can. I think you can craft them, but yeah, they started putting in some of the different colored. I think it's the mossy ones. They're helicopter loot, right? Like they're dynamic loot.
Yeah, you can't paint them on Doug,
and you can't. Yeah, you can't paint them. So on Doug, you can make them, you can paint them, and then a few of them. Because BI had done it, I made a few of them actually. Some of the colors, the options will spawn on a helicopter too. So, but if you want to, you can just make them. I mean, but yeah, it's just a little thing like that so many people take for granted. But yeah, we often get, that comes up every few weeks or every couple months, I guess. What about blue spray paint, or what about? But like, you look at all the items in the world that you could spray paint, and then we got to add that color in. and that's a lot of work. That's a lot of text
I
running.
think we have 40 or 50 or 60 different items you can spray paint. So that means at
Wow.
least 40 to 50 or 60 textures that need to be made by somebody.
Well, well, since we've already got the black enduro helmets, maybe that's something that could be possible. But no, let me just say real quick, Panda. The reason why I like the black enduro or like the enduro helmets is simply because my character live on the coast often, and that's the most helmety looking helmet you can find on the coast, really. And I almost all of my decisions are completely role play oriented. So when my character's hanging around town, he might wear like a hat, or whatever's comfortable. But whenever he would travel and he would expect to possibly, encounter resistance, he would rather have something on his head other than cloth. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like a role play thing. You know what I mean? It's not stat based whatsoever. Not even close. But yeah, I don't know. I like that we have a variety of things. I wanted to mention though that what I really like about the items that you spray paint is that it's not like it's replacing it with a model that's black. It's replacing it with a model that actually looks spray painted. Like I really like that. Like if you spray paint a Mosin, it looks spray painted. It doesn't look like it was manufactured as a black weapon.
Thank you, BI.
Yeah,
So
that's
the
actually-
DIRU was done by me.
Oh, I
Oh.
got you.
Just a
Was the
simple
Mosin done by
technical-
you?
The green one
whoops.
was, I believe, because they removed that stuff. There was
Yeah,
some of the guns still I need to, I guess, sit down one day and just look at every single wooden weapon because something like the carbine, you can't spray paint any colors because they never made anything for it.
Mhm.
The weapon attachments for the AKM and the AK-74, AK-101, etc. At one point in the game back, I know some people in the chat might get upset by saying this, but back in 0.62, you could spray paint those items.
Mhm.
At one point when we first worked on it, you could spray paint the items, but then they broke again. And only here until recently, I had to make brand new textures for everything because some of the attachments didn't have maybe a green variant of it or a black variant. So once we finished all those up for every single attachment for it, then it comes in a game and now we have it working again. So now if you have an AK-74 or an AKM, you like the cherry wood, maybe you can paint that black or paint it green. Just add yourself that extra bit of camouflage. Or if you want, spray paint your drum mag, paint it green, paint it black, etc.
That would be cool. I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice to be able to spray paint things and make it all as react as realistically as possible. But let's also not forget that this is a game and that that it's all coding and textures, and it requires a lot of effort and work from somebody that is usually not the person asking for these things. So there's certainly no reason for anybody to be like annoyed or upset or anything because a suggestion gets turned away or something just isn't quite up to the quality standards that we like to have in the Doug mod and community and whatnot. I just think it's worth mentioning. Sometimes just things are what they are, and
because somebody had said, "Hey, we'll just combine a plate carrier with black spray paint," and now I have a black plate carrier. It would come down to not that we can't do that; it's that we won't do it for balancing reasons. Like I said earlier, if you're wearing a plate carrier, we want people to be able to tell you're wearing a plate carrier. If you're wearing a press vest, to an extent, we want people to see that yes, you're wearing a press vest. You are wearing armor, and that person needs to worry about that armor.
that's a fantastic point. That it's a balance issue.
Everything in every game, certainly a game like DayZ or any time like a shooter, it's risk versus reward. I always fall back to that when I think about things, and that's how some of the like the rarity of some items too is also set when I think about things. It's risk versus reward, right? So why is something, if I'm gonna boost a number or cut a number of something in the CLE, it always goes back to, well, how useful is this item, right? To survival, like to DayZ. Right. So, and if it's useful, then I'm either going to reduce the numbers because I know people need it to survive, and that's what brings up like sort of the hardcoreness, right, of the server, if you want to say it that way. Or I'm going to put it in an area that's risky to get to, right? So that you have to pay, right? You've got to pay to get that item through risk, right? So either I'm going to make you go somewhere where you don't want to go, or or you've got to get deep. Like and BI did this too, right? The deeper you go into the map, is where the better things spawn. Going back to the argument, the whole, the black clothing and stuff, even BI, the vanilla game, there are fewer, if you want to take like, trying to think, raincoats. There are fewer black and green raincoats in the vanilla game than there are of the other colors. So even BI doesn't want you to be a black and green, Mega Chad, all standing around a campfire.
Ninja.
When
See,
you're
that makes
playing-
sense. That makes perfect sense. I mean, again, it's not like you're going to be able to go and find black variants of everything that you want in the real world going through this. And I do think that it's interesting that BI kind of looks at it that way, because it does. It makes the because they know that most people are going to prefer either camo or black.
And it's not necessarily about making you more camouflage too, because a lot of people some people have proven it too. It's not always about the color in DayZ. It's movement that attracts the eye. You can be standing there in yellow and blue, and standing in front of a tree, and as long as you don't move, there will be the odd person at least who walks right by you. But the minute you're moving, even if you're dressed all in black or all in green, they're gonna pick you up. Certainly there is an advantage there, but the other side of it is, how popular is it? If there is something that provides no real obvious advantage, but it's extremely popular, well, one of the ways to drive player interaction, whether it's through keeping you on the server playing, which has no benefit to us obviously, but it keeps you engaged in your character. If you want those aviator sunglasses, and that's a poor example because I'm just picking it up, but you've got to search for them. And searching for things makes you move around the map, and moving around the map opens you to more risk to running into players. And that's why, for instance, BI increased the lifetime on all the items. The lifetimes used to have a very short, and loot would move around the map. So you could just sit in, I don't know, let's say Staroy, and you'd loot the town, and 2 hours later, or 4 hours later, let's say, you could log back in and loot the town again, and everything would be different. Because loot moved, it expired, right? If you didn't touch it, it would expire, and the CLE just kind of shuffles things around. So one of their things of increasing the lifetimes was to make the world feel more real and make it feel more lived in. Like if that jacket's there on the ground and you come back tomorrow, chances are that jacket's still going to be there because no one picked it up, right? Now they eventually fell back on it a little bit. They had the lifespans up like well over a day for some items, and BI eventually changed it because too many players complained. But and again, that's speaking vanilla values. I'm not talking about Doug, but I loved the change. It made people, you couldn't just sit in Staroy, loot the town, come back on 4 hours or 6 hours later, or even the next morning and loot the town again and find all different items because there was no risk there. You never had to leave where your base was, for instance, right? And now when you want to find something, you loot that town and it's like, it's not here. And guess what? It's not going to be there tomorrow either, right? Because loot doesn't self-shuffle. So you got to move to find the item you want. And players hated the idea of it because I think they're inherently lazy. But it's risk and reward. And I don't mean that as an insult. I hear Emma laughing, but it's people are naturally lazy. We're gamers.
Well,
but it's risk and reward.
For me, it's more of I get where you're coming from that, and it's absolutely true. I do get lazy as well, but for me, it's also a matter of time, because it could take hours and hours just traveling around to a couple of towns nearby, just looking for something. But again, it is like you say, it's the risk versus reward, because what am I risking by going out to different towns looting? I'm risking time, or my life or whatever. But ultimately, if I get killed, that's just a big time sink for me anyway. So because I don't really lose much of anything else, it's mainly my time. And so really that's kind of a big part of the game, is that you're risking your real life time.
You're risking everything. That's
doing
what
things
DayZ
that
is so good about.
That's
And if-
right.
and if-
DayZ
and if
doesn't
you're
care
one
about
of
your time.
Yeah, if you're one of those players that doesn't have a lot of time for the game,
Yeah.
then you value your character. You value your time. Your time is
Mhm.
important. I can only play DayZ for 6 hours this week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to get the most benefit out of my 6 hours, and people would complain. I don't want to have to loot the entire server looking for aviator sunglasses. They're stupid. I just want them. It's my PID. But what but you got to move around to get them, or have someone bring them to you. And that's a one way to move story around. But that's just part of it. And again, it's a small number of players that play like that. I play like that too. I really value my time. I
Mhm.
don't have a lot of time for DayZ, but I enjoy the looting process,
Mhm.
and I also really enjoy my PID. So, I don't know. I mean, I still enjoy that. I can see where others wouldn't, because you only get so many hours to play, and you want to have all these interactions. You don't want to run around searching 55 sheds, but it's part of the game. I don't know. It can be very rewarding when you look at it that way. When you look at it like you value your character's life, and you might go for different interactions to get what you want if you don't want to loot the entire map.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. Now, look, man, I'll tell you right now, as playing the Reverend, having a Bible is very important to my character. Not because I actually role play him where he has the Bible memorized, so I don't actually have to have it. But it's a fun prop to have. Okay, but it's like if I find a Bible, because they're pretty rare. I mean, they're pretty rare for me anyway, and I like that. I like because nobody's out there manufacturing Bibles, for crying out loud. They're gonna become scarce, and it's awesome because it creates more opportunities for role play, because people who might find one and who have heard about the Reverend might come to bring him one, which is something that inspires them to walk across the map to meet my character. It inspires my character to go out, because that's how he's going to find them, is by going out. And so I go to places where I know there are churches, which I might not have gone to that place because maybe it's someone's territory or something. And so I find myself taking those risks and doing those kinds of things. And again, it goes back to the spawning in with your favorite PID thing. It's again the reason why I'm glad that we don't do that, because it just adds so much more to the game and kind of forces us to do more.
That's part of the game.
Looting in DayZ is a huge part of the game.
Yeah, it's
right?
super fun. I do love it. I love
someone
it.
commented that PID is everything on Doug, and to a certain degree it is. I mean, we're an RP based server, like it or not. I mean, most of our players are here for the RP interaction. Not all of them, but are. And PID is important. But we're not going to just give it. We're not just going to give you a Bible every time you. I know what would be the value if every 20th building you went into there was a Bible sitting there.
Right. Would I even care anymore? Probably not.
You wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And you lose something from that, right? Like if it was so easy to get it back, then you kind of there's no value to it at that point, right?
If people come to bring my character a Bible, let me tell you something right now. That is a meaningful interaction for my character. I mean, flat out. And it's true. If Bibles were a dime a dozen, he just toss it on the pile. Be like, thanks, man. It really wouldn't matter as much. So that's pretty cool. Man, I'm telling you right now, we are flying through this episode. I do hope we'll be able to get you guys back again. Actually, maybe not too long, because I feel like there's still hundreds of things we could talk about. But one thing I do want to make sure that we talk about, because I did promise some technical stuff, and we haven't really gotten too terribly technical, is and it is something very curious to people, is talking about the temperature on Doug and how it affects how we play and things like that. And I know Desync has a lot of information on that. You guys probably
That's ammo.
all do.
All ammo.
But ammo. Okay, well, let's go, dude. What how does this freaking thing work, and how does it relate to the day-night cycle and all of that? Because people get upset when they can't wear their favorite t-shirt and jeans in the middle of winter. How does this work?
Well, just be glad it's not January. Let's start with that one. Because January is worse than Namalsk. No, how does it work?
Well,
the server is in currently the server is in September.
Okay.
It always was in September. For a brief period, we were in June. And people complained the nights were too short. And that's because Daisy implemented a system where the day-night cycle is somewhat realistic, depending on the time of year. So shorter nights in the summer, longer nights in the winter. But the temperature in September is kind of harsh. So I've been slowly cranking up the September temperature to acceptable levels. I think we've hit a good spot currently. Another issue is that your actual temperature of your character, you can stick a thermometer up somebody's ass and measure it, but that temperature is not stored on the character. There's a heat comfort value stored, and that's a value from -1 to 1. -1 is freezing to death, 1 is burning to death, 0 is where you want to be.
Okay, so when you're talking about that now, I mean, they're like decimal values in that? I mean, it's not like just a toggle.
Yeah, it's a floating point. So yeah,
okay. That's cool.
So it's 009, 0.9, 0.8, 0.8888889, etc. So yeah, another issue is when you're at say you're at -0.5, which is kind of cold. It's I believe that's a low blue thermometer, not a completely freezing thermometer, but it's kind of cold. You're dipping into the blue white, that dipping point, and then you're logged off during daytime, so you're comfortable, you're blue, but almost white or blue white, and then you log in during the night, and that's when your comfort starts crashing instantly. Instead of I think it's a bug that they don't store the actual absolute temperature of a character. So you can measure somebody's temperature, but that's a derived value. They just compute that of the other values, and that's kind of technical, but yeah. So that makes it so when we change the temperature or change the daytime, or you log in during the night while you were at daytime, or vice versa, that it takes a time for your character to acclimatize to the new temperature. Because your character thinks it's cold, but it's sunny outside. But yeah, your character still thinks it's fucking cold, so it takes time. So the easy fix for that is stick to a fire.
Or kill your character to have it reset.
Yeah.
Well, now let me ask you this then, because there's one thing that drives me absolutely nuts. Okay. And it's because, I do a lot of cooking, and there are plenty of times where I've, come close to putting myself into red health just by sitting too close to the fire for too long, just trying to be near it so that I can swap things out before they burn. And now I've learned to adjust to that. I move back away, or like if I'm in a watchtower, I move back into the extreme corner of the watchtower and listen for the food to be done cooking. But I mean, is that a bug, or I mean, is that like just the way it works, or I mean, is it something adjustable? Or
well, I've said before on the modding channels and on the Duck Discord, etc., that the whole temperature system is a finicky system. So a single degree of temperature change on in the settings can have profound effects. Because when we were back in June, some people would overheat in houses when we had the time set to June. But that's only 4 degree or 3 degree difference from the September date where people were freezing to death. And that's outside temperature in Celsius. So that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, all the temperatures we're using currently, well, my house is colder than the outside temperature in DayZ at the moment. So something's whack, basically.
Yeah. The thing with the fire too, though, is I think it's sort of an unattended, I won't call it bug, but unintended feature. They've been playing around. There was a couple patches ago where they made the heat radiating off a fire larger, so you wouldn't have to like sit right on top of it.
I see. Yeah.
But when they did that, they made it so that when you get really close to a fire, you're burning. Like it's almost like it's like a it's like, the fire is the center, which is, really, really hot. And then but you can sit further away now and still get the heat buff. But I think it was, there may be something a little off there in their implementation, in the fact that if you spend any amount of time, you know, really close to the fire, like when you're trying to cook large amounts of, of food, that you go into flashing red temperature. But maybe that's fair. I mean, if you've ever sat around a real campfire, yeah, if you're sitting that close to it, yeah, you're going to get burned. I know I melted the bottom of my Doc Martens one year in my backyard.
Yeah, that's fairly prolific in scouting, and yeah, it's something that we dealt with all the time, especially when it was cold. If you were camping out at night and it was cold, you'd want to sit really close to the fire because you're thinking, oh, it's going to make me more warm. But the more time you spend next to the fire, just the more hot you get. You don't even notice it, because it's a gradual thing. The next thing you know, you're overheated, and then when you move away from it, everything's cold. It's just not good. You gotta not sit right up on the fire, but you can't be too far back. Yeah, so it kind of makes sense. I mean, I get like the theory behind that. It's just like, it gets a little rough, but I mean, also when you think about it, it's like if I'm cooking at home, and I do that all the time, I'm standing in the kitchen. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'll sweat after a while if I'm standing, in front of the stove cooking things. You got steam coming up. You've got all these different factors that factor in. So it does make sense. I mean, there are ways that this can make sense. I guess
I think the other thing though is BI probably never intended for the average player to sit and cook a tent full of zucchinis like they do on Doug.
That's
right?
a fair point. Yeah.
The average player on Doug doesn't, or the average player of DayZ doesn't run a community camp.
Well, it's a PvP game. I mean, originally, I mean, that's the bottom line. It was designed to be a PvP mod. So,
for example, for the zucchinis, at one point when I was still with Dugout, I managed probably 3 stone ovens. So that's 9 different pots going at the same time.
Dude, wow.
I would be melting to death the entire time, but I would just back off for a second, get myself back to yellow, then head right back in.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Oh gosh, because I only work with one at a time. I can't even imagine, dude.
As Desync mentioned in the chat, if you're dealing with warmth during the night and you're in a forest, make a torch. On Doug, the wooden torches give out warmth. That's not vanilla.
Bonus.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know if people didn't know, because you can also use them to dry yourself off or dry out another fire. Or
yes, because it provides heat.
So that's good to know. So
on vanilla, that shouldn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
Risk versus reward, though, right?
Yeah, you're light, you're seen, but hey, you get warm.
There you go. I'll tell you, that's one way to look at it too, as far as running a community camp, because nothing is safe. If you feel like, oh, I'll just sit around and do this activity and everything will be just fine, it's not really. You still got to balance certain things to kind of make sure it stays safe for you. Like me, if I could literally just sit there and cook all day, it wouldn't really be a big deal. But now I've got to consider, oh man, well now I'm going to start, overheating. I have to back up. I have to do other things. I can't just sit here and literally do this one thing the whole time I play. There's a silver lining to most things, and we can justify things to make them make sense in an in-character setting. So it's kind of interesting. I like some of the technical talk sometimes, even if I don't know it myself.
Last minute questions for me, because I'm going to bounce here pretty soon.
Yeah, we are all actually going to have to bounce pretty soon. But yeah, you know what I would ask? I would ask you guys as a group, okay? And somebody else mentioned it, so it's not my idea, but I love it. Which and I did ask this of the admin team, is what are some of the changes or additions that you're hoping that BI will bring for you guys, whether it's just the server itself, for everybody, global changes, or things that'll make things easier for modding and that sort of thing?
Personally,
I hope they eventually fix cars. And I would like to, I guess, I don't know. I was about to say I'd kind of like them to bring in bikes. I know it's a big feature, but when I think about it, I don't know. I don't really know if DayZ really needs bikes, and I think I'm going to stick with that. Actually, I don't think we need bikes.
I make fun of bikes all the time.
Yeah, everyone thinks it would. Yeah. Everything thinks it'd be a really cool feature to have.
Yeah,
but you know what? Like, you watch players who move around the server. What Gameatros? Okay, that guy.
Yeah.
I want to talk about somebody that travels the map.
Yeah.
And does it quickly. Like, he'll stream for a couple hours. He'll move from Tizzy to Skalitsky Island, back to Zeleno and he runs over to the dugout and then goes back home, and it's like, what? How did he do that? So it doesn't take long to traverse the map. Yeah, Bill. Yeah. So, but and in saying that, do we really need bikes at that point? But I hope they, just in general, cars are quote unquote a big part of the game, but they are certainly in the game. The developers, put them in there on purpose. They're a powerful item, but I'd like them for them to work right. I just want something that, that I think BI wants them to work right too, but it's, there's challenges around that. So I just want them to get their core features in the game working the way they want them to. That, and I think more documentation would be sweet from the developers.
That's cool.
I'm gonna go with the true weather system they had with the volumetric clouds.
If anybody isn't aware what
Yeah.
that is, that was a more in-depth weather, and it looked more realistic. The clouds actually moved properly and actually formed also and disappeared. Every time when you played, that was only over different with, I think if you had your game set to a high setting on one of the settings,
Mhm.
then you had true clouds appear, but then they ended up removing it because it was just too many problems.
Yeah, well, it caused desync between between the client and server and other clients, so you could get wet, raining, and you think it would be sunny, etc. But yeah, I loved the look of 0.62 in that respect. So I wish they would bring that back.
See, I'm gonna have to cut my own self off because I've already thought about 4 different things I want to bring up now just from you guys talking about that stuff. I am curious though how you guys feel about weather cycles and season cycles and stuff, because I know people bring that up sometimes. Like it'd be cool up north if there was snow at certain times of year, and those kinds of changes. Do you see that as being possible or something that we might ever see? I don't know what it would take and what's involved. I imagine a ton of modeling and stuff.
Yeah, it's a little
Sounds
bit.
like a huge project.
I think so. I don't mind the fact that there's no seasons, really. I mean, it's a game. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it would be fun to have, but when you look at the amount of work and balance that would go into that versus what we have today,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's totally a requirement.
That's fair.
We have the winter Chernarus and the summer Chernarus, etc. But the gripe with the winter Chernarus is that it hides the leaves on bushes, but some of the leaves block bullets, so you can see
Oh.
somebody, but you can't shoot them.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's all kinds of bullshit.
But it's a hack,
Interesting.
though, right? It's a design
Yeah.
limitation, right? All they've done, they didn't change the way the bush works. They just gave it a new texture.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
I know,
interesting because that's like an unintended consequence of changes that people might not expect.
But then the big one everyone's buzzing about, which I think somebody in the chat was EOS, the overhaul, which adds the north gets a bunch of snow because it's a higher elevation, and then there's also increased detail with additional stuff on the coastline and other towns. The first thing that I saw, because they did a benchmark video, which was he kept a stationary camera at one point and said, "This is the frame rate." And basically, what I got from that was he's trying to convince people that that's going to be the frame rate at all times. When even the base DayZ game is not like that. You're not going to just if you keep a single camera point, it's going to be, depending on your rig, you may get 100 FPS, you might get 30 FPS, 60. But the moment you start moving, going to more densely populated areas like forest or trees, that's when it's going to start fluctuating, and it can drop down to the 30s, the 20s. For some people, it can become a PowerPoint presentation.
Mm.
So, and in the future, if that person or the group that works on EOS decides to do a more fully fledged benchmark test with multiple different rigs, saying that, hey, let's say my 3080 can run this at a solid 90. That's great, but most people are going to keep their settings turned down anyway. But as it gets fully more fleshed out, we'll probably look into it, but at the end of the day, we may not even add it because it's such a small thing. It's a great quality of life for people who enjoy that type of stuff, because it feels like everyone's been on Chernarus for how many years now? Probably more than since Arma 2 days, which would be like what? Almost nearing 10 years now? People
Sorry.
want a change of pace, and when Livonia came out, it scratched the itch for maybe 10 minutes for a lot of people. Mollusk also came out, and it scratched the itch in a different way. For some people, it didn't last that long, but for some people, they're now diehards for it, because people just want a change of pace from Chernarus.
That's very cool. All right, guys. Look, man. I know Diesel's got to go. We're already over, which is fine with me. But yeah, I'm dragging too. I feel like this was a pretty successful episode. What do you guys think? I mean, people seem pretty happy. It was a lot to talk about, and I hope that we get you guys back on again before long. You see, I'm actually taking notes. I have to stop. I had to stop myself. I'll go for another hour with you guys. This is fantastic. Is there any final thoughts or closing anything you guys would like to say?
Be patient. Not everything's going to come out once a week. One thing we like to do is I guess, at least back in the past, was content packs, which was we did like the military pack, the civilian pack. That was always a nightmare. So we decided to do small little updates here and there. And hopefully here soon, if we push some stuff out, hopefully people will be happy. I mean, not everyone's going to be. There's always the naysayers too, and the people who don't like change to an extent. Just be patient and give your feedback after it's out. Play with it a little bit, learn about it, and see what's wrong with it if there is anything that needs to be changed. Because we're always able to listen. We're always here, literally at the bottom. If you ever join the TeamSpeak channel for DayZ Underground, or right there at the bottom, usually just sitting there bickering at each other back and forth about something that's being broken, trying to fix something.
And the other point I want to make is be afraid for the next one. Be afraid.
Everyone dies equally on Doug.
Mm-hmm. Be afraid for the next update.
That sounds interesting. What a great teaser.
That's all I'm saying.
All right, what a great teaser, man. I'm telling you, we're gonna get those raptors. That's what he's saying. Watch out. You're gonna hear wow out of the middle of nowhere. You're gonna get gobbled up by the Reverend riding as a raptor with his flamethrower. Boy, I tell you, boy can dream, right? Just kidding, guys.
Well, that ties into Yari's earlier thing, where there are no dinosaurs on Doug. There won't be dinosaurs. Don't worry.
Nice. I don't know where this flamethrower thing came from, by the way. It doesn't even make sense for my character, but for some reason, it got in my head months ago, and now I can't get rid of it. It would be like the worst thing. I can only imagine the amount of work that would take, but I just like...
somebody has made that in the Modders Discord. It's just a particle effect that causes damage.
Oh, okay. I got you. It doesn't set fire to trees.
Things, I mean...
I'm like, it's time to cleanse the land.
Perfect.
No, okay.
Burn the heretics.
Well, maybe it would fit. Maybe it would fit. I don't know. But all right, guys. We're gonna wind this one down. I really appreciate the modding team for you guys showing up, and for all you other guys in chat who also showed up. Again, there's a lot of people who have been involved with all of this, and that I have no idea who they all are. I really appreciate the effort and quality that goes into many of the changes on this server. I really can't wait to see what you guys come up with next. I mean, all this stuff is just really fascinating for me. And I appreciate everybody in chat for showing up and playing nicely and fairly. And I hope that you guys had a lot of your questions answered. And if not, make sure you make a list and send them to me. Because, I mean, again, the next opportunity we get, we'll do this again. I mean, I had a great time with you guys. You guys are wonderful guests. And that's it. Somebody asked me already, what are we doing next week? The answer is I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So there's a couple of things. I'm actually hoping to be talking with somebody from another roleplay server here. I thought it'd be interesting. Somebody brought up the suggestion, and I agreed. I think it would be interesting to find out what it's like, in other places too. Because, like, somebody for me, all my time has been spent on Doug, and it'd be kind of interesting to get perspectives and points of views from other people who have played games just as long, but maybe under different rules, and just kind of find out why things are the way they are there as opposed to here, and vice versa. So we might do that, or we could do anything else. So make sure that if you have any suggestions for Gaming Workshop episodes, relay them to me, because I'm always looking for ideas. I mean, there's really nothing I can think of off the top of my head appropriate that we wouldn't discuss here. But anyway, again, thanks, guys. Really appreciate having you guys on, and I look forward to having you again.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I'd do that again.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. But all right, guys, that's it. I guess the next you'll see me is tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. Here, I'm going to be streaming some Doug. I don't know what we're going to do. If it'll be the Reverend or something different, we'll have to see. And again on Friday, and then we'll be back here next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, talking about something that's going to interest the crap out of you because you guys love Doug, and that's what this is about. So you guys take care, and we'll see you soon. Why not?
Right.